In this, the year of our Lord 2024, the trading card game space and the model for trading card games is well understood by its audience. But sometimes a game comes along and tries to change something, put a tweak or a spin on that very well-trodden formula. And the game we're going to talk about today wants to do one better. This game has its eyes set on absolutely breaking the TCG space wide open and changing everything we know about trading card games. Can they pull it off? Let's discuss. Today we're talking about the Altered trading card game, also known as Altered TCG, and this is a French-made trading card game that released earlier this month on Kickstarter to, well, rave reviews, we'll put it that way. This is an incredibly heavily funded trading card game that attempts to innovate in so many different ways it's hard to fit into one video in a succinct manner, but I'm going to try anyway. And if you're curious how successful it was on Kickstarter, well, let's take a look. Here is the Kickstarter. It is 39 hours remaining within this actual Kickstarter. If you want to go fund it, you probably want to hop on it right now. And yes, that number is not made up. That number is in USD. They had the goal of $54,000 and they reached it. In fact, they did so many times over to the tune of $5 million plus. And that is a massive, massive success. In fact, I will even put it and quantify it in how successful it is, because if we compare that to all of the other trading card games, if we search for trading card games on Kickstarter and then we go to most funded, it is the most funded trading card game, period, end of story. You're looking at some other incredibly successful trading card games and Kickstarters in their own right, like Grand Archive here, which is doing fantastically, by the way, in the actual market. And then, of course, some other games that you see as we go down. But atop them all is Altered TCG. And I'll do you one better, because if you just expand that search to just card games, it's the second most funded card game on the site, losing out only to Exploding Kittens. Yes, that's right. Exploding Kittens, the game that you can pick up in every big box store now ever, incredibly successful, spawned a series of games. Well, Altered is right behind it, which is bonkers. Why is this Kickstarter so successful in a saturated trading card game market, and what are people buying into? Let's talk about where they're going and why people want in on this game. As we look down their Kickstarter page, you're going to notice something. These pledge tiers for the trading card game, of which we're going to talk about, why it innovates and how it innovates on its playability, are really geared towards play first and foremost. There's not a bunch of extra flashy things. You're looking at these tiers and you're saying, okay, this one is basically a case. It's 4 booster displays, booster boxes, with a bunch of the starter decks. The cheaper one, which is the one that I'm getting, is a bunch of the starter decks and a box. You can even just buy the starter decks. Like, it's very simple to pick up and just run off with. And that's what a lot of people have pledged for. Almost 2,000 backers on just the starter decks. 6,388 backers on the starter decks plus the booster box, so on and so forth. And then at the very bottom, where there are some actual splashy things, by the way, this one is pretty solid. You get 3 displays. You get a beautiful deck box made by GameGenic, a beautiful zip-up album, as they call it, made by GameGenic, a bunch of really nice looking GameGenic sleeves. This is where you get a little bit of that splash and that spice. You get these nice little pop-up premium tokens and heroes, along with a little pop-up board, which you can also just play on a game mat. And then at the very bottom, if you're a store, you're buying this because it comes with 42 booster boxes, which is insane. And finally, some uncut sheets, the kind of splash rare collector's item that you might consider flipping. But when you look at a lot of Kickstarters that go out there and try to succeed, that's the kind of thing you see all over the Kickstarter. Collectible pieces that could just be intended to be flipped if you purchased into it. Of course, you can keep it and you can collect it and you can enjoy it as well, but they offer some amount of perhaps monetary value. This is not that. This is very much just the game. So why are people buying into this if the trading card game market is super saturated? And that is because Altered TCG is trying to change just about everything we know within this trading card game space, within the tropes of the game or of trading cards in general, with how you interact with them, period, end of story. So first things first, the game plays far differently. Well, I shouldn't say far differently. It plays differently in many respects to many traditional trading card games. In trading card games in general, the overarching strategy is one of I am competing against my opponent to reduce their XYZ, life points, whatever you want to call it, to 0. We are in conflict via combat. I am fighting you, and we are trying to see who comes out on top by having more life at the end. This game isn't like that. In fact, in many respects, it takes the conflict, changes it completely, and takes combat out of the system completely. Instead, it's much more of a race-style game, something that you might call or recognize as being similar to a Lorcana, or I would again harken back to one of the other most innovative trading card games out there, or if you can even call it that, Keyforge. It was much more of a race-style game. First person to get this many points wins the game. That is kind of how both of those games function. That is how this game functions, except both of those have combat to some degree. This, not so much at all. This is a pure race game, and it, as you see here, is incredibly optimistic. It's full of very positive energy. The entire point of the game is to unite your hero or your player character with its companion, an animal companion. And as you go through, you are moving through this beautiful world full of this fantastically lush and vibrant colored art, and attempting to connect the two of them together. So there's this theme of exploration. There's this theme of togetherness and bringing two beings together to make something greater than the sum of their parts. And I can get behind that. I can see that. They take it a lot further though, and without diving into a full-on how to play, they've changed the way, if I click on cards here, maybe I can show you this. They've changed the way you would go about interacting on the board with cards, or I should even say better, interacting with deck building on the cards. So the rarity system of this game is unique in some respects to how it functions. There are different rarities, but those rarities don't necessarily give you a completely different card. Instead, what they're giving you is sort of an upgrade or a change to that card. So for example, this is Axiom Salvager. You can see stat line type, taking the overall iconography of the card, right? If we move from this version to this version, moving up a level, as you can see, we've changed some things. So this card still functions as the card, but as it gets rarer, it gets slightly better. And the same thing goes as you move up as well towards higher rarities. This is the way that it functions within this game. The rarity system functions on a really interesting, unique axis in that a card can functionally be collected at its lowest rarity and played at its lowest rarity easily. There are no cards that are locked to a higher rarity. There are no mythics that are only mythics. In fact, all cards exist on all rarities. They just change, evolve, or grow based on their rarity. What does that mean for a player? Well, it means that if you don't have the rarest version of this card, you don't have to worry because you could always play a less rare version. The rarer version does get more powerful, does get better, but you can play lower rarities of those cards just fine. And that is quite cool. This, coupled with some other major mechanics and aspects of this game, have put a complete spin on the trading card game model. And let's talk about that, because this QR code right here really sets up some crazy, future timeline eventualities with how this card is distributed, how this card game is played and engaged with, both on a physical and a digital method. So when you open a pack of this game, when you open up all your cards, every card will have a QR code that you can use to scan with the official Altered TCG app. And in doing so, you will gain a digital version of this card. That is not the first time that's ever happened. There's multiple types of games that have this system. Keyforge had this system, wherein you went to your app, you scanned the QR code on the deck card, and it would give you access to that deck for collection purposes. But they take it a step further. They almost go like a Diablo 3 style route, or like a WoW TCG, or WoW, the actual World of Warcraft MMO style on the website and the app, in that players can trade or purchase other people's versions of their cards. Think of it like a shop on that website or on the app, where players can go and they can buy that card and then own that card from a digital sense. But it takes it a step further, because if you buy this card from someone else, you still own the physical card and you can still play with it for fun. And the person that purchased the card digitally can now go to that app and request for the company that produces Altered TCG, Equinox Games. They can request that Equinox goes and prints and mails their card to them. So if you purchase a playset of, this character, for example, we'll go back here. If you purchase a playset of Kellen, you are able to have the company print and send you on demand this card. So owning it on the website means that you now own it physically and can play it in tournaments. This also means you can have as many copies of this card printed, and you can put them into a bunch of different decks, which is fantastic if you want to build a bunch of different decks, or if you want to build 2 decks that you and a friend can learn to play on. Because you own this card, you can have them print as many copies as you want, meaning that the value of this card doesn't lie in the physical copy of the card. The value lies in the ownership of the digital copy on the website. Now, that completely changes how you view a trading card game and how you interact with a trading card game. And there are some people that will be like, well, this is basically just NFTs. Not really, because NFTs are hated by many and a lot of people because of a lot of different reasons. Like they are, very easy to essentially just go and scam people out of if you can just steal someone's wallet key, or they are incredibly terrible for the environment because they're stealing a bunch of electricity so that a computer can mint it on the blockchain. And so on and so forth. They're viewed as scams by many because people have been able to manipulate the market via that, as you're viewing it more like a cryptocurrency than you are a piece of, in this case, a token for playing a game. This is not that. And in fact, this functions far more like something like a Diablo 3 store, or like a Call of Duty gun skins store. Stuff like that. It functions far more like that than it does an NFT. And this is all living on the official website for Altered TCG. And that changes that makes some huge changes to the way that you interact with this game. They also are having a full-on connection between the paper play in tournament play as well as a digital testing client. Now, they said this recently, that there is going to be a digital client that you can play this game on, but it is not going to be in the same vein as something that you've seen like Pokemon, or something that you've seen like Magic the Gathering Arena, wherein tournaments are run on there, and sort of the game is funneled onto this faceless electronic engagement tool. They have said that they want very much to have players play this game in person at local game stores, and have local game stores be the vehicle for buying cards and then playing the game in an organized play setting. Now, again, just like there are possible issues with storing everyone's data and information on a private server owned by this company and then keeping everyone's stuff straight, I'm sure that there are the possibilities of that not being the case going forward, and them leaning more heavily into online play. But I love the possibility and the commitment to paper play. I love the commitment to LGS, and I love the commitment to trying new things in a very well-trodden system of trading card games. And I am very excited to see how this goes. There are a lot more little things that I notice that they're doing and that kind of open up new avenues of engagement. But it's quite cool to see a game not just like try to innovate in many ways, try to just break our established tropes within the TCG space, but do so and then succeed for it. That is quite cool, quite impressive, and it is one that I am very excited to try out myself. I don't know where it's going to go, but if a game can come out of nowhere and change the way that we interact with our favorite medium, hopefully you feel that way too, all the more power to them, and I wish them the best of luck. So let me know what you think about Altered TCG down in the comments below. What are your takes? What are your opinions? What are your worries? And what are your excitements about this game? And if you want more coverage and want more, content about Altered TCG on this channel, make a number go slightly higher and let me know that as well. Because numbers going up are very successful. I mean, look, this number's gone up multiple times during the recording of this video, and that's pretty awesome. So make that number go up too. As always, thanks for watching.